Hey, let's keep going with laying out our building. The next thing we want to do is talk about how we like to lay out grids at Beck. Just like we talked about in the previous video, our origin is the center of those reference planes, and we do that in order to have clean dimensions and have a reference to go back to and check all our dimensions and make sure they're clean. So another organization principle that you will use on your buildings is the use of grids. To create your grids, you're going to do the architecture tab, and you may have had a discussion with your structural engineer or know that you've got parking or whatever. We're going to use the example of a 30-foot grid because it's very common. You'll see when you click the grid tool, you've got straight grids, arcs from center, you can pick lines, and you can even draw multi-segment grids. We're going to start over here at the left, and we're just going to start at the top and pull down. Now you want to extend your grid just about as big as your building feels like it needs to be. You'll notice the grid starts you with number 1, and that's good. And now we start our grids at Beck in the upper left corner is 1, and it's going to go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we're going to come over and do A, B, C, D, however many you have. So we can, at this point, copy or array. I'm going to use the array tool because that's faster. And I'm going to say I want to do 30-foot grids, and I want 5 of them. Let's see how far that gets me. Nope, need a few more for this building, say 7. And we'll do 1 more for 8. And obviously, they don't have to be. That looks about right. Now I would look at this and say, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I would probably want to try and get my building centered in here. The other thing I would do is, unless I'm going to be adding more grids, I would select all instances of this array, and I would ungroup it. And I'm going to take everything I've done here, and I'm going to move it because it's early on. It's easy to move stuff around early. It gets harder the more you have set up. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So really the center of my building is going to be halfway through that. So I'm going to move it another 15 feet to the left. And now you can see, okay, my building's gotten bigger. So I'll extend my scope boxes. We talked about those in the previous video. All right. And so maybe there's something over here, maybe not. Doesn't matter for this example. We'll go ahead and make our building bigger to fit our example. All right, and now we want to do, and you'll notice it automatically numbered 1 through 5. If you have an uneven grid, it's worth noting that, let's say there's, I don't know, some sort of mezzanine here, and we're going to need a partial grid. We would put in a grid, think points. So there's nothing perfect about this, but 15, we would, or at 15 feet, that might be grid 1.5, right? And then if you had to do another one, copy one over here, let's say this one's only at 10 feet, I'd call that 1.3, something like that. You know, it's not an exact science, but the idea, I'm sorry, that would be 3.3. It's partway between 3 and 4. So, and then in the north-south direction, we will create our lettered grids. And again, we're going to start in the upper left, and you'll notice it's going to be 3.4, and that's fine. I'm not worried about that. The first thing I want you to do is change that to an A, because Revit will be alphanumeric, and it will now go B. And you'll see I'm just copying it a different way this time to show you. It doesn't really matter if you use an array or just copy. So now we're getting close, and I'm going to take my walls up here and make my building bigger. And I know this isn't really how you design. We'll hopefully have a good example of a floor plan that we can use, or I'll just make it up as I go. We'll see how the videos progress. Anyway, that's all I wanted to talk to about grids. Real quick, if you do have a curved grid, let's say down here we've got a curved face, we'll draw one of those. You can either do it from endpoint to endpoint, so we could go like this and pull it out like that, and now you have a curved grid. Or if you have a center point you want to use as your origin, and we go to the grid tool, we can pick grid from center. So let's say you wanted to have, there was some feature that you wanted about that center, you could do it that way. And that's all for that. I may or may not come back to having a curved grid in a different example. Okay, so that's the end of this video, and we'll move forward on the design shortly.